Okay, we are about to start.
Okay, ready when you are.
Okay, guys, some of you must be new here, and many of us, many of the people have heard yesterday. We have a couple of disclaimers here. Number one, this is not a teaching session. Anything which is taught here should not be tried by yourself without taking a professional help, or at least a senior who is flying since long time with a senior mentor. None of these sessions are for teaching. It is only for sharing at this point of a time. And number two, you can only ask today's guest speaker, Gurpreet ji, questions related to today's topic. Nothing, nothing personal. You cannot make it controversial. Please do not ask any personal questions. You can only ask related to the topic. Anything slightly outside the topic, you can ask with his permission. Okay, so we are about to start the session now. First of all, thanks to Gurpreet for coming on this session. And he's always supportive to flying stories. You might have noticed that this is the third time he's coming. He's the first one always to respond that, whatever the topic to take up immediately. So nice of him. And thanks to everybody for coming here and believing us that you're going to get something from these sessions. Gurpreet, over to you.
Thank you, Badri. And first of all, thank you for the great initiative, Flying Stories, what you have done and what you're doing right now. And this is only a small contribution we can make to the big contribution you're making. So thank you, first of all. So coming to what we're going to do today, we are going to discuss very, very basic stuff. I think everybody knows it. I just want to put I don't see any very new balance. So it's bit basic stuff, but I will put maybe in my words how I teach, and maybe it will open up some new connection in your brain, new model forming a little bit. And both the topics that I've chosen are something to do with improving the takeoffs, and particularly understanding different conditions and adjusting yourself before you even try to bring the glider up. I'm keeping the lectures very theoretical in the sense that they are conceptual. They're not so much, I'm not teaching to do acro, so there's no danger of trying at home kind of stuff. And there's more to clarify the concepts behind what you guys already do.
Okay.
Just to make you better at anticipating different conditions for the launch. First one is about the launch only. So I will do in two parts. First one is the importance of speed and where the forward forces come from in glider, and what's important, keeping that in mind. And second is about the pitching of the glider. On the launch, when we fly glider, we see some days it's pitching more, some days it's pitching less. Why does it pitch? And I'll also address something which has been a bit controversial, my teaching method of teaching damping, which a lot of people have taken up with my students or between them. I hear from third parties that they discuss that damping is not necessary or why. And but nobody has brought it to me. So I'm using this window to bring it out in open and put my point across. And whatever you have to say, you can get back to me either here or personally also at different level about it. But I'll request everybody to keep an open mind and to try to absorb it and then react. You don't need to outright bounce it off the shell only. First, let it sink in. And then if you really see value in discussion further, then we can discuss it. Right? Yeah. So we start with the first issue, that is the forward forces. We know that for a paraglider to fly, or any aerofoil to produce flight, any aircraft, we need certain amount of forward speed, certain amount of airflow over the wing to produce that much lift, which is minimum required to take off. And paragliders are no exception. Paragliders also need that much a particular amount of speed, about 18 to 20 kilometers an hour, is what we need of airflow, the airspeed over the wing. Now, general conception in student days that speed comes from running, and emphasis, and in a lot of places I see while teaching, instructor is emphasizing too much on run, run, run. And what I've seen in my practice is that if the student is a little bit athletic, he can easily overdo it. So what you need to understand is the forces on the glider, which is very, very simple. There are just three forces. There's no, we have a paraglider, let's say, the basic airfoil. We all know the forces on the wing, which is gravity, downward. There's drag, backward, which will be in direction opposite, in the direction of motion, opposite to the glider motion, in the same direction as the wind. We always flying forward and down, so the air is coming up. And what we don't realize is that lift is not directly upward. Lift is 90 degrees to the chord line, which should be slightly down, because we can't fly straight, we always fly down. So our wing is actually pointed slightly down from the horizon. The attitude of the wing is slightly towards the surface. Because we are a catabatic sport, we are a downhill sport, there's no engine. So like a cycle without a chain, you can only make it move by going downhill. There's no other way if there's no external power source. So whatever the chord line is, if it's slightly below the horizon, then lift is 90 degrees to that. That will, I'm exaggerating it, that will be a little forward. That should be minor, but to make it visible in the board, I'm making it pointed forward a bit more, right? Now, we all heard that forces balance each other, and generally the diagram you see in the book says that lift and drag, the resultant force is, this is the resultant, this is lift, this is drag. So we hear that the resultant force is opposite to gravity. That's correct, but it doesn't paint the right picture. I like to do it other way around with my students. What I explain is that because, first let's take these two forces, lift and gravity. There is a slight angle. They're not directly opposite, right? There's a slight angle between them. And it's resultant of these two forces which produces a forward force. I'll call it F, right?
Yeah.
So this is like two elastic, you have a wing here, and there's elastic going up, elastic going down. The up one is a little bit forward. So when these two elastics pull, the center part gets propelled forward, right? So this is where the forward motion comes, and very important part of it is gravity. And then it's not just gravity; it's actually weight, gravity into your mass.
Yeah.
Right. We have mass and we have gravity, but till we don't load the glider, the forward motion doesn't come. So what's important is loading your carabiners. Till you don't load the carabiners, it doesn't interact with the lift and the forward motion doesn't come. So when we just try to run upright, forward, glider doesn't go much forward. Even when you're helping other people and you push from back, you tend to see glider going slightly behind. A person gets lifted, but it's not producing much speed. On the other hand, if you hold from just above the carabiner, right, hold the riser from just above the carabiner and then pull, you'll see glider pick up speed because now you're adding to the weight. Okay. And pilot's harness doesn't get upright. So this is getting pulled forward more, down more, and this is producing more forward force, right? So now when this happens, now how do the forces balance? When you take off, for a while you accelerate. Why do you accelerate? Because this force at that time is more than the balancing force opposite. The speed is not there, so drag is less. When you launch, you accelerate till, and as you accelerate, the drag increases, and it increases by scale. The speed doubles, the drag quadruples. So soon, very soon, the drag catches up with the forward force, and these two forces balance each other.
Okay.
So this is how stable flight is achieved. Right? Now, few things that we can learn. One is, of course, loading. Very important to load the glider on the launch. I see many people walking very slow. You can be slow. If wind is good, it's not a question of running speed. It's about air speed, right? So you just need to lean better and throw your weight on the carabiner. And when you're helping somebody in a windy situation, better to hold from just above the carabiner and help the person than to push from the harness. Because that way, the person would be able to run. You're not interfering with his sitting position. You'll be able to run. And same goes for the tandems also. If you hold from just above the passenger carabiner, the passenger doesn't get pulled into sitting position early. His feet don't come up, right?
Yeah.
And you are adding to the gravity, and hence the glider is moving faster. And the more airspeed is generated quickly, and so very, very important part here is the loading. So this is what I see often, very, very often. People may say is not to load the glider properly. Sooner you load it, more weight you throw on it, quicker the speed builds up, nicer your takeoff is. It's quite simple there. So now I'll take a small break and invite questions.
Yeah, I have one question, sir. Before somebody comes up, guys, you can ask questions. So I'll give you the mic. Just type a message or just raise your hand. I don't know if I can see all of them. I'm going to change the window view. Okay. My question here is, one part is, unless the glider pulls you a little bit up, how will you put the weight? I mean, how are we going to put the weight? Whether we put the weight first or glider will give us a little help to put the weight. How does it work?
While you're launching, you put the weight by leaning forward, by throwing your weight on the chest belt. And that is the part. I see people bending but not leaning. Leaning is like this trust exercise that your friend stands in front and you throw yourself and wait for the friend to catch you. And bending is you don't trust your friend, you just bend from the hip, but the weight is on your feet only. So that's bending. Bending doesn't help. But leaning, and with each step, as the glider produces more lift, you throw your weight onto the chest strap, onto the belt between the two carabiners. That's where you should be literally hanging from as you run. Most of the weight should be going there as soon as possible.
Okay. So, guys, anybody have a question on? Yeah. Okay, Babuji here.
Okay, Gurpreet, usually what we see is when we put, and if there is strong wind, left, right, pulling, that's the time it
Yeah.
is difficult to really run hard because the glider's really pulling you here, there. I mean, I'm talking about strong winds, huh?
Babuji, there's two points. One is the roll correction is something we will discuss separately. If the glider goes left and right, we will, because that's another part altogether. And other is generating speed. So for generating speed, best you can do is put your weight. And for roll correction, if your glider is not over your head, then you don't put your weight. First correct the glider, bring it over your head, and then put the weight. That's the basic answer. First priority is the roll correction. If the glider goes left and right, first, of course, we need to sort it out. Once glider is over our head, only then we commit to the launch. So first, roll correction, then throw your weight forward.
Okay. Thank you.
And what I want to encourage is people and students being encouraged to load and generate speed as much as possible by themselves. I understand winds have their own issues and sometimes external help or a tow launch is needed, right? But it should not be needed when it's not needed. When a student can generate enough speed, or not student, when a pilot can generate enough speed by just loading the glider, he should not be given too much. He should not be made dependent on the external support. External support should be over and above what they can do themselves. And best they can do themselves is load the glider at that time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, guys, till now, what is covered is that, on the launch, how do you inflate? I mean, what kind of a forces will help the glider to inflate, which is very important before you take off. And he's trying to say here is not just running is not useful. It is how do you load your glider. So that's a summarization as of now. Any questions? We'll move forward. If just send a message to me. I don't know who is asking a question here. I don't see anybody asking a question. Can we move forward? Yeah, Gurpreet, we have 33 people as on now. Please move on to the next section.
Badri, this Sajid here, it's showing 1 minute 17 seconds left.
Yeah.
So you want to consider that.
Yeah. So guys, for some reason, it is giving me some limit for today's meeting. If that is the case, quickly you all will copy. In case if we can't meet here, you all will copy new link from our WhatsApp groups. Okay. In 2 minutes break, I'll put a new link. In case if this,
Okay.
yeah.
Badari, you probably need not put a new link. The same link should work if you restart the meeting.
Let's see that. Okay, we'll try that.
Yeah, the same link
Now,
works.
Nikhil has a question, sir. Nikhil, I'm giving mic. Just give me a second.
Yeah.
Hi, Gurpreet. This is Nikhil.
Hi, Nikhil.
Hi, nice to finally see you after many, many years. I'll be brief. While inflating a wing, so sometimes on strong wind days, someone recommended me that just use the central risers, leave alone the riser part that connects to the wing tips. Can you throw more light on that? Does it make sense, or is it just a myth? Or
No, it's true. You can do that. You can even use bring up one side of the glider first. But can we answer this question after the second part? Because what we're going to discuss in second part is very relevant to this answer.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So I'll answer this after we cover the second part.
Got it.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
So 1 second, guys. Everybody, can you mute your video and mic as well? Hi, Roshanji. Can you mute your video and as well as audio, both, because so that we all can see. We can use the bandwidth to see what Gurpreet is writing, and also we can see him. Please mute all videos. When you want to speak, you can switch on the camera and the mic. You just listen for now, and you can watch Gurpreet. Thank you. Many people are keeping it on mute. Vishal Kumarji, please mute your video. Yeah, thank you. Gurpreet, go ahead.
We start with the second part now. There's no more questions from first part.
Yeah, anybody has more questions, you can send a message to me. I'll give you the mic as of now. I don't see any questions, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay. So now we will discuss the pitch of the glider. I mean, with respect to the launch again, or conditions on the launch. Why it tends to pitch more some days and why it tends to pitch less other days, and also what's the difference of condition at the ground handling with respect to the actual launches.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming everybody knows the port line and angle of attack. So if this is our glider, we are here. Paraglider always flies at a certain positive angle of attack. It's not negative, never negative. So, just a second.
Yes, sir. We are listening to you.
Yeah. So, like paraglider is always the wind is at a certain angle of attack. It's never negative. It's never zero. It's always positive. In free flight, when fully loaded, it's between 16 to 18 degrees. I read it somewhere. I'm not very sure. So don't go dissecting the exact mathematics. It's some positive angle around that much, 16 to 80 degrees, when glider is fully loaded and at normal speed. When we are at the launch, we are not fully loaded. So there is still an angle of attack, still positive few degrees, but not 16 to 18 degrees. Now you have to understand that when we bring the glider up, we're not running yet much because our inertia doesn't let us accelerate immediately. There's certain lag between us trying to pick up speed and generating our own wind. So till that time, we are totally subject to the prevailing winds. So when we are on the flat ground, when a student is learning, we are generally on a flat ground. Right? That means airflow is coming very, very horizontal. not easy to draw straight lines while sitting down. Okay. So when a student brings up the glider, it will stabilize at certain angle of attack. That's where the force is balanced. Leave alone the inertial part. There's inertial part to the launch, the glider comes with certain speed. Mostly that is an explanation we give it first day to student that it's the inertia you checking the glider, but it's actually not the inertia. With moderate winds, in zero wind, yes, the inertia is important, but in moderate winds, inertia is not important because 6 kilo wing, there's enough drag to stop it. It doesn't go forward because of the inertia. Old wings used to, which were made with heavy fabric, they used to go with inertia. New wings, particularly lighter wings, they don't go forward much with inertia. Drag is enough to stop them. So what's happening is that the forces in the glider will stabilize at vertical. This is again accelerated. It's quite small. It's not this much. This is almost like 25 degrees or so. It will be less, about 5-6 degrees, I think, with partial loading. So at certain angle of attack, the glider forces will stabilize. The lift and pull and drag will stabilize. So that means when we are on the flat ground, airflow is coming horizontally. The glider will always stabilize a little bit behind the vertical. So whenever you are ground handling or a student is ground handling, you will see the glider has tendency to hang back. And people generally think it's because they are ENA gliders or something, that's why they hang back. But no, it's the horizontal airflow. But when we go to the launch, it's no longer a horizontal airflow. It has a vertical component in it. When you're on the slope, the airflow is coming like this.
Yeah.
Right, close to ground, it will be relatively horizontal. Everybody can see it?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So when we bring the glider up, as it comes into more vertical airflow, it wants to go and stabilize at that particular angle of attack with respect to this more vertical airflow now. That takes it much beyond the vertical.
Okay.
It has tendency to go ahead of. And if you launch here, there will be less tendency because here airflow will be relatively flatter. So there will be less tendency. More forward you go on the slope, more the glider will have tendency to go forward because it wants to, if the wind is like this, it hangs back here. If wind goes forward, the glider also wants to go forward. It just wants to achieve the same angle of attack with the wind. So if you launch here, if you stand on the slope, glider will have more tendency to go forward. If you stand here, glider will have less tendency to. Same, if it's a thermic day, airflow is going more vertical on a thermic day, then the glider will have more tendency to go forward. And on a stable day, when it's colder day, same place, feeling, let's say, and in a colder overcast day, there will be no tendency to go forward. But a thermic day, you see so many people losing the control of the glider goes whoop, forward. And that is why it's doing it, because it wants to achieve the same angle of attack.
Okay.
Right? And that's where the damping thing we teach comes in, is that even when we are practicing on the ground, and we don't need damping there because glider is anyway hanging back a bit, not coming even to the top properly, we need to learn the reflex. And that's why we teach damping, because here when we go on the slope, we need damping. And of course, damping is not a standard maneuver. Initially, you teach it as a standard maneuver, but later you realize someday you need it more, some days you need it less. And particularly you can see, more vertical the takeoff, more the tendency of the glider would be to go forward. More vertical the airflow, more the tendency of the glider to go up, whether it's due to the topography or because of the thermic nature of the air. More thermic the air, or more vertical the airflow, more tendency of the glider would be to go forward, and you need to stop it over your head. And that's where the damping comes in. Now, damping means you put the brake with a sharp jab, stop the glider over your head, and then bring your hands up. Now, why do we, a lot of people think, why not keep the hand down only, and then you can take off at a slower speed?
Yeah.
Two things. For takeoff, we need one speed, right? Would it be possible to generate enough flying speed with the brake on or without the brake on? Mountain launches are generally shorter, right?
Yeah.
So you need to generate that speed quicker, and that's why it's better to ease up on the brake and accelerate So that means glider has tendency to go forward. You stopped it once. If you ease back the brake, you need to start moving. Otherwise, it will again go forward, right? It's not a full cure. But if you release the brake and you move quickly, your launch will happen in 2 steps. You don't need much. If you hold the brakes down, you will take longer to launch. Second is, if you take off with the brakes on, that means you have taken off. You're generating enough lift even at the minimum speed. Let's say you took off at 22 kilometers an hour. Other guy didn't use the brake and he took off at 29 or 30 kilometers an hour, right? The airspeed. The one guy who took off with 22 kilometers an hour, when he takes off and he eases up on the brake, what will happen? The glider has to reach the trim speed of about 36 to 38 kilometers an hour. So where does the energy come from? Energy comes from your potential energy. The glider will have a sinky takeoff. You will go down and then level out into a flight.
True.
Other guy who put in zero brakes and run fast, even 2-3 steps maybe, but quick acceleration, then he will have a flatter launch. Why? Because the glider will just need 6 kilometers from the potential energy to reach the trim speed. Whereas here you're reaching, what, 16 kilometers an hour is the gap between your takeoff speed and your trim. So these are the reason why glider goes more forward some days and less on other, and why I teach damping.
Okay.
So again, we are open to question, and then I'll answer Nikhil's question.
Yeah.
After we have
Nice.
questions.
Questions, please. Anybody has any questions?
Okay, we can go to Nikhil then. Nikhil, are you listening?
Nikhil, okay, wait, I'll give you the mic. Yeah, Nikhil, come up. Yes.
So my question was about what are the pros and cons of inflating a wing?
Yeah, he's answering.
With just the central.
Just making sure, are you listening? Yeah, Gurpreet, you can go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So Nikhil, there are a few points here that I'd like to make. One is, yes, you can use central lines. Sometimes in a very windy situation, I sometimes just pull one line. But that doesn't mean you pull one line. What people don't understand is, I see a lot of people launching and I see them hold the riser. Can you see my arm? They hold, I'm using left because it's more visible. I'm left-handed anyway. So they hold the riser and they pull. Anybody bending the arm to pull the riser, I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
Because it's not about, you don't launch the glider with the A lines. You launch with all the lines and they're attached here at the carabiner. So you just give it, it's like, I just want some A cells to get air. So I pull it, just take one line maybe in the center, on one side sometimes, not even full if it's very windy and I'm flying a conch wing. Then I just take one line and I just give it a pull. And pull is more with the body. You move the whole line. So everything is getting tension actually, but one A line is getting a little bit more. Yeah. So there's a delay. One part will come up more and you anticipate it. If I gave it this left-sided riser and I took the central A on the left side only, one line only, it's very windy. If I just stand loose, I don't move my body and pull with the arm, I won't have good launch. Why? Yeah. Too much difference now. One A will, and the rest will get wrapped up. Right? And if I want to have good launch, I take one A line, but I move the whole body back.
Yeah.
Creating tension on all the lines, slightly one ishara, like a signal to one part of the glider. And then comes up stagger. So you anticipate now, this is going up, it will be forward. So I'm already ready to use the brake that controls that side. So slow it down. And you just don't overdo it. Don't over brake in windy conditions. Just give enough that this, the lead you created on this side gets balanced by the time glider comes here. Don't try to sort it here. What people do is they stop the pull, they want to sort it here and then bring it up. That's where it goes wrong. Too much brake, you start getting dragged. Right? Other thing you can do, particularly with high aspect ratio wing, is that you have to understand that it's about having the same tension in the lines when you're launching, right? You get the feeling. With this much tension, the glider launches perfectly. When it's not windy, we create that tension by running. right? When it's too windy, tension is too much. So we reduce the tension by walking towards the glider. So you give that signal, and you know that I don't want to use brake because brake will make the drag increase and pull me backward. So what you do is you give that ishara and you walk towards the glider, keeping the tension, not running loose, not going in a neutral, keeping your pull backward, keeping your weight backwards, but walking towards the glider, easing the tension a bit.
Yeah.
The tension in the lines, you reduce it enough back to the normal, right?
Yeah.
And you walk back and use least amount of damping then. Why? Because the windy situation is exception where we don't damp, where we don't flare. If it's too windy, putting too much brake will get it pulled too much. So we use the minimum. So in that case, instead of damping, we use moving towards the glide. So you can use even a single line of one side to launch high aspect ratio wings if you pull with the body.
Okay.
And just use that line for a little bit signal. Don't just launch with bent arm and hold tension on one line. Then it will get wrapped up.
Yeah.
Got it. This was very helpful.
Yeah. Nikhil, I hope that clears your question. Anybody, guys? Any other questions? Can we move forward?
Badri, may I have one?
Yeah.
Rohit here. Hi, Gurpreet. The question that I have, I think you have given us nice breakdown of dampening, but primarily flying in Kamchet high wind takeoffs, I can say if I'm not that good at dampening, but I have learned to compensate my shortcoming by lifting the wing, of course, with the hips. When it's even about 70 degrees, that's when I quickly turn forward, pressing the brake, keeping the brakes down. And as I accelerate, I start raising the brakes in a complete torpedo, matching my forward speed, loading, and keeping the brakes raising all the time, so that by the time I'm even like 3-4 steps, my brakes are already raised. I have the right matching speed with my wing well loaded, and I'm off takeoff. I've been surprised once or twice. I know, I mean, I need to still learn, but I'm just checking that, is it too bad what I'm doing right now?
Not too bad, but it's like good for a slightly bigger launch where you have enough time. If you have a very short launch, then you will have a handicap there.
Okay.
For the launch, Kamchet and Panchkani, where you have enough time, you're moving slowly, it's good method. But if you have a zero wind day or even slight negative wind day, excellent thermic spring day in Billing, and you want to launch, you will be in for a surprise in that.
Okay, I'll definitely practice the jab one.
Rohit, I think there's these two are two different things. I mean, Panchgani or Apna here towards.
We can discuss, not a problem. We can discuss because I think the average group level is much higher than I anticipated. So we can discuss hard things also. But based on what we've been discussing around launches, if you have any questions, I'll answer.
Yeah, let him right now continue because I have the same set of questions you are asking, Rohit. When is it's completely different launching Apna either in Panchgani, and it's very, very, very different in Bir. So I think
my question was Badri about the Bir, and my launching technique wasn't perfect as Gurpreet mentioned. So I was just verifying that. But yeah, I got my answer.
No, very much welcome. I'm saying that we will still discuss this even more. I have the similar question.
Perfect.
So
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, guys, until now.
I will add. Just let me add something here, which this was the kind of finishing thing on what you were discussing is that this is also the difference between ground handling and actual launching. When we ground handling, the wing never comes properly fully over our head. And we end up ground handling it at 80 degrees. And generally what I see were people who ground handling and they're good with it, but they get into habit of grabbing the air riser again. Right? Every time grabbing a riser again. So I would want people to understand that when you're on a slope, when there's a vertical airflow, glider will not hang back. Will come.
It's frozen a bit. Yeah.
A little forward, again, cutting the glider out by just loading. You push your hips back into the harness, and just with the loading, try to make the glider come up.
Gurpreet, could you repeat the last 40 seconds? Probably there was a network issue.
Okay. So what I was saying was when ground handling, then the glider tends to hang back because the same issue we discussed, that it wants to, if it's a very horizontal wing, then it will hang back. It will not come forward. If in reverse, it will stay slightly less than 90 degrees, about 80 degrees or so. And we try to handle it that. And anytime when it decays a bit, we tend to grab the air. And this is the part that you need to realize is that don't get into habit of grabbing the air riser again. If possible, try to recover the glider by just loading it, right?
Okay.
And anticipate that when you go to the takeoff, the glider, when it's a more vertical airflow, glider will not stay at 80 degrees. It will come to 120 degrees very quickly. It will go beyond your head because it's vertical airflow now, and it wants to achieve the same angle of attack.
Yeah.
So that's the part. Ground handling makes you better, but this is the part that you need to understand the difference between ground handling to rear launch.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, sir. I think you can move forward to the next section.
No, these were the only two sections. So I'm open to questions now. Any type of question, but with the launch.
So then, okay. So Rohit, I think you can come back. I thought he has more things to talk. Rohit, you can come back. I think let's proceed with that more in detail.
Badri, I think I asked the question, got an answer. Need to practice more on the dampening.
Okay. All right. So, guys, anybody has questions? Okay.
But if they don't have questions, I would like to have feedback on topics they want to be discussed, or because I think this was maybe a bit too basic for everybody, and the group level I anticipated is a little bit more experienced. So I'm open to feedbacks of what they want discussed in any further sessions we do. Any suggestions you can say now, or you can send it later to Badri or to me directly, and we'll work out something for those topics.
I have one question here, Gurpreet, on today's subject is, for us here in Pune and Panchgani, in Kamshet and Panchgani, probably we watch tandem pilots and we try to launch in high wing. And over the years, what I've learned is that we should have patience. We shouldn't be watching them, because the things happen too quick. Like glider came up and you're already in the air, you don't know what is happening. so it is too quick because of the amount of wind. It takes its own way. So give me more light on that, and as well as it is completely reversed when it comes to Bir-Billing. That you put the glider, you spread the glider ready with the razors, and you're waiting for that little wind. It doesn't come. And you lose patience that slightly you see the ribbon, little bit of wagging, then you try to take off and realize that nothing is happening. It has happened to me that I have ran up to the road almost. I was about to jump onto the road, but glider took me luckily. So I think these 2 points, if you can discuss more in detail, it would be great.
With mountain launches, not just Billing, anywhere, like you go to Alps, anywhere, you need to be better. You never forget your forward launch either. Don't get dependent on reverse launch only. Even in comps, I've done forward launches. Though the compings are very short risers and it's very difficult to hold the ace and run, but we have done it. And generally, when it's a very good conditions, good thermic activity, there is normally no wind on the takeoff because thermals are stopping the wind. So if you want to do good flights, you should practice both the launches. Don't get dependent on reverse only. And damping is same actually for both reverse and forward. It doesn't make a difference. Only one you're looking at the wind, other you don't look at. Other concept is same. The extent varies depending on the wind and depending on the verticalness of the wind. Some days you need to damp more, some days you need to damp less. And after damping, quickly start increasing speed. And the speed is from the loading, not just by running. So
Yeah.
correct position, leaning onto the risers is very important.
Yeah. So I got it. So forward is the best way to go. So guys,
Yeah.
anybody has questions? I see some.
Badri,
Yeah.
I have a question, Badri. So one of the scary moment in beer for me is for some reason we are delayed in takeoff, and now on the top takeoff, let's say, we have to turn facing slightly west or south. South is straightforward, sorry, the west or southwest. And it's a short takeoff, and you can't even, there is not a runway there. You have to keep the glider cross, lift it cross, and correct it and run, in the cross direction. And any strategies, or you have seen people doing mistakes, what we can do better in such conditions?
Rohit, this is very interesting. Actually, this is a subject. It's typical to me, but it's also typical to evaluating takeoffs. When you go to the top takeoff, I'll draw this is a topography. I don't have that good drawing skills, but I will try to make my point. Now, the top, let's say this is the road that goes in, and then we have the bottom launch, and then we walk up and we have a east launch here, and the top southwest facing launch, right? Makes sense here? So now what happens is that this ridge continues. So here is kind of if there's a ridge line that goes like this and this, so it's kind of a ball and brings good airflow like this here.
Yeah, yeah.
This, on the other hand, is a spur.
Correct.
It's a projecting shape. So the airflow is diverging here. Right? Do you understand?
Yeah, yeah.
So except for, if you're very lucky and find the dead center of the airflow, otherwise the glider will always have tendency to go left or right on the upper launch. It appears to be a very nice, very long, student-friendly launch, but it is not. Why? Because of the airflow. Here you have diverging airflow. Here you have kind of a converging. It's diverging, but there's a ball shape here, and it makes nice airflow. If you see, I always launch my students from here. I don't take them there until it's like the wind is coming along the ridge, which is south wind, which is anyway not so friendly for the students. So I generally prefer this area. This area is technically the best, but problem here is that there is a step. Just above the road, there is a step, and as you launch, if you don't have enough speed, you hit the step, and your lines go loose because it's kind of a lip coming up like this. So as you run down, and then you have to touch and run, and that makes your lines a little loose and reduces the speed. So this is the friendliest area for the west winds. And if you anticipate, the glider can go both ways here. Even if it's west wind, don't anticipate the glider will always run. It can start going this way also.
So never had a challenge with the lower one, but had challenges at the upper one. You're spot on there with your explanation.
This is the reason for the upper one. It's diverging airflow. It's a spur. Spurs are never good for launches. Balls are good for launches because more laminar airflow, unidirectional. Even if you launch a little bit off, you actually point it towards the same direction that you need to go in. Whereas the spur, you will be diverging. You will be pulled this way or that way. It's not
just a bad launch, really.
It looks very friendly, and this is the strange thing is, as pilots, we should not be looking only at topography. We should be looking at airflow. But I generally stand there and see so many people, even teaching up there, and making the same mistake, not looking at the airflow. The east launch is good.
Yeah, feels good enough runway. Yeah, east is beautiful. Feels good enough runway on the waist. We can think you can run really good, but it's
and also because it's diverging airflow, it doesn't have so much lift component. The energy is going into diverge. So you see the takeoffs suddenly sink. People touch the ground further than they expect to touch the ground. They expect to be off very quickly. It should be lifting up. But generally here, the takeoffs are very sinky. You touch a couple of times, on the rough part, and then you take off. This because the energy is not going into going up; it's going to diverging around the ridge. So this is why it's happening here. But don't go by one place only. Don't make a formal copy of the launch. Point here is evaluate the airflow and choose the launch according to the airflow and not just make formulas for one place.
Topography. Yeah. Thanks.
Go ahead, please.
Gurpreet, further to this, a lot of us are now getting interested in BV flying, so that so you're landing in new places, and then there is the task of finding a launch. So can you give us some pointers as to? I mean, it was very interesting because so far, from whatever understanding I had, I would always look for a spur. But today you said that a bowl is better, which I've been thinking about it. Yes, I completely agree. And when I look back, even on some of the launches in Panchgani.
Yeah, we can. Without what you are saying, first, welcome. I didn't see you earlier, so hello. What you're saying is kind of a full subject by itself. So can we plan it for one of the future sessions, or you want to do it now?
Sir, if it is both lamba hai, to we can take it on future sessions. But if you can give a short idea, probably for now.
My suggestion one for wall pivot is that skill level needs to be very high, and you should not just launch from standard takeoffs. You should be able to launch from very small places. But it's not just practice, it's also all the understanding, the things we discussed today, understanding the airflow, anticipating the airflow without having experienced a new place, judging it just standing there without even bringing your glider up first, and then feeling the glider and making the decision in the moment. So what I would suggest is, if you want to go the BB way, you need to practice and you need to think a lot also, to analyze also. And what we are missing is amount of discussion within our community is less. I would like to see much more discussions. I'm also open to learning. I mean, don't think that I feel that I know everything. I'm very open to learning. Any points that come, I'm always willing to learn and improve myself. I haven't been very fit lately, but over the last year, I've gotten back from my injury and things are working much better. I'm back to running a bit. I lost about 15 kilos. So things are working out. I think I'll be doing more flying. We can all learn, and we need to have more discussions. And particularly at pivot level, all these things, like we talked about, the airflow should be reflexive. You should be almost like at that level, a pilot almost sees the air. Not just, he doesn't need to pause. When he goes to a place, the airflow is there, some red, yellow, green arrows that form in his mind. Telling him which would be even the good small place. I can tell you by one experience. There was one launch, and we went there, and it looked perfect. But it was windy day. When I went to that launch, I was not so used to wind. And we tried to launch there, and we were 3 pilots. One pilot took slightly from the side and brought the glider up, and off he went, no problem. 2 of us chose a place which seemed much more friendlier. And the other pilot didn't want to go last, so I was helping him with the launch. But 5, 6 attempts, and the glider kept getting crumpled up and didn't really come up nicely. And I got irritated at that person. Rather than getting irritated or thinking what the problem is, I projected my irritation because you're stressed. When you go to a new launch, you're in a wild place, you're a little stressed. And so I kind of misbehaved, I should say. I wasn't very encouraging and friendly. And I said, I can't support you anymore. I want to go myself first now. And the guy said, okay. He was a little guilty, and he said, okay, you go. And when I tried to launch, same thing happened to me. What I was telling him that he's doing wrong, I didn't do that wrong. I felt that I didn't do that wrong, but the result was the same. And you know what was the problem? There was a kind of big bush about 50 feet below, which was not in our takeoff path. But because it was windy and the airflow was coming along the surface, it was bringing turbulence up. Right? So when the glider was launched up, it would have been fine. But as the glider was coming up, it was hitting turbulence from that bush, which was 50 feet below, not in our glide path in any way. But that the surface is like this, and the turbulence at that point, at the low point, is coming along the surface up. So the moment the glider came in, it was in turbulent airflow and would crumple up. So just a lesson that I learned that day is that you really need to think about the airflow when you go on any site. So, and this was what we talked about, using one-line launches, using Cobra launches, walking towards the glider, de-stressing the line, bringing the tension in the lines back to the same. All these skills should be spot on before we start thinking of PV. So I'm just giving you a measure of where we should be before we start thinking PV flights and launching on wild places.
Yeah. So we have a couple of questions, but which are not related to today's topic. Something like, Subhash is asking, like, can we please have a session on how to spot thermals? I know it's a at least a 30 minutes discussion on that. Probably we should come up with one more session.
That was my next idea, was to, next topic I wanted to do was how I teach thermaling to my students. I have my own model of air which I teach, which is not in textbooks. Rather, I can use the feedback on this also from the experienced pilots. And new ones can learn from experienced pilots who give feedback, whether they see any value in the model I teach and how I break down the forces. So yes, I'll take the session for the next lecture.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, Viz, you are asking something? Okay, guys, we are about to close the session. If you have any last question, you can ask. And also, the app is going to reset in about 3 minutes now. If you have any last question, you can ask. Okay. So, thank you so much, Gurpreet, for coming. And guys, I didn't introduce Gurpreet. I mean, in fact, he doesn't need the introduction, but it is a formality. I need to do it here. Gurpreet is a cross-country competition pilot, and also he runs a school in Bir-Billing called Paragliding Gurukul. And for any of your training needs, education, learning needs, and any questions in general other than learning you have, he's a very nice man to answer. So you can approach him directly. And also he is willing to take during these Corona holidays until May 3rd, if you can group up for a similar topic, you can group up about up to 5 people or more, rather than going one by one. It is difficult to hold a session for one single person. Group up as 5, you can directly do a session with him. He is willing to take that. Yes, sir?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I can take one-on-one also if there's, I generally have time, and any people are always welcome. You can call me, you can do video calls. I'm always willing to answer. Yeah. I want to compensate for the fact that I've been told I don't look very friendly and approachable. So I am. It's just an exterior. It's my mask.
No, nothing
like that. It. I'm approachable.
In our experience, you're very friendly.
I'm very much approachable. Yeah. So please call me up anytime with any question or any discussion. I won't say question. Question means I know more and I need to answer. Anything you want to discuss, maybe out of discussion we both learn something. So anything you want to discuss.
Thank you, Gurpreet. Lovely session.
Thank you, Gurpreet.
Thank you all.
A lot of very good.
It was good fun.
Yeah, it is
good point. So much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Badri.
I can restart the
Looking forward to thermaling.
Restart the end. You guys come back. Thanks.
I look forward to the thermaling session.
We will
looking forward to thermaling.
Come back.
Cool.
I think
JD.
next topic should be thumbling, yeah, with Gurpreet. It will
Yes,
be very interesting.
yes, yes, we agree.
Anyway, Lord Public Demand, we also have Nikhil asking for FAI triangle tools and strategies. Gurpreet, if you are listening. FAI triangle strategies.
I think for FAI triangle, we first need. Yeah, we will do that. I'll think about it and then we will do it. I don't have anything in my mind ready for FAI triangles.
Anyway, today morning, Moodiji has blessed us with another 15 days, 17 days. So we have a lot of time to kill. We can hold more. So
cool.
Thank you so much, guys, for everybody coming in.
Thank you.
All of you can switch on your videos and say thanks to Gurpreet.
Thank you, Gurpreet.
Thank you, Gurpreet.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.